Star Citizen is far from complete. Many of the reasons for piracy, resource collection, bounty hunting, and even just traveling don't exist yet. The same is true for the first star system, Stanton. As a system being built from the ground up, it must undergo a pattern of expansion to introduce new spaces and updates to introduce new features to use those spaces. Without the spaces, features aren't tested. Without the features, spaces are useless. This has been a tug-of-war over the years that will continue on in this system and the game as a whole. In this video, I'm going to show you what makes the first star system in Star Citizen, how it continues to change, and how the future of this star system and the game as a whole will play radically different from what we play in Alpha 3.17. This video was made in January 2023 as an exclusive for my supporters. If you would like to join them in accessing a new exclusive video every month, chat rooms, and live podcasts, check out the link in the video description and pinned comment. And if you already are, well, thank you for supporting my Tomato Talks. The Stanton system is unique in many different ways we'll go over in this video, but it was chosen as the first system in the game for one key reason. It contains just enough of everything to set some good standards for systems going forward, from the planets to the size to the location compared to other systems to the architectural styles of each planet. But anyways, Stanton is a sort of safe system with a lot of corporate and trade opportunities, piracy and gang activity, a huge population in general, and a massive supply of work, though not for the most lucrative pay. It's meant for early players to the game, but definitely still the type of player who can defend themselves. This isn't all entirely true to the system just yet, but it's where it's headed. A star system in Star Citizen is meant to be a pretty complex thing on its own, and as more of them are created and connected, they will all affect each other. The Stanton system will change, for better or worse depending on who you are. And in this video I'm going to show you the signs and hints as to how that change has already started and how it will continue in the future. As I hinted at before, Stanton is not a normal system, even by this video game's standards. You've got 4 planets all sitting in the system's habitable zone, and while there were some minor issues with the terraforming process, looking at you Microtech, they all are oxygen-rich atmospheres that allow you to traverse in plain clothes in different biomes and environments. The other 3 planets besides Microtech the ice planet are Arcorp, the city planet, Hurston the semi-wasteland of a planet, and Crusader, the gas giant. All are moderated and controlled by their own corporate entities which go by the same name as their planets. They weren't super creative. These jurisdictions are not just for show, either. Throughout the game, you'll encounter different factions that perceive you in different ways based on your friends, foes, and the activities you partake in. This is very limited at the moment, but it's growing in significance every year. In Stanton, you'll be able to decide which companies and individuals you team up with to make money. While this is true in each system, Stanton is the only system that is primarily controlled by corporations, so you can imagine how out of hand this style of loyalty could get. Now, surrounding all these planets are 12 moons that also belong to their respective companies, though you will find plenty of smaller companies with facilities and operations on these moons. In addition to the planetary bodies in the system, you will also find asteroid and debris fields, dozens of space stations, a prison, a massive asteroid belt around the whole system, and several areas of concentrated piracy, including an off-the-radar pirate base for the unlawful players. But what I've described here is the basic star system that Stanton was when each planet was completed. The complex nature of Stanton that I mentioned allows the company to build it out with many assets, biomes, and practices that will assist the creation of future systems, and that's only become more clear since the planets were completed and the planetary team has started building on their foundation. Many of the features that have done this are required for other functionality, but have all gone some way to improve the planetary and space station experience of the game. These features include, but aren't limited to, larger hangars for bigger ships to spawn in, new space stations around the system for better coverage, the addition of refinery decks bringing the refining gameplay to space stations, the still underutilized cargo decks which will likely be more useful by the end of the year, spawn closets which better control populations, hospitals and the associated gameplay with them, atmospheric clouds on planets, along with rivers spread across the planets that can have them, new types of caves to join the rocky caves we are already exploring, derelict ships to explore, loot, and fight pirates at, derelict ruins where you could do the same, drug labs to make some good money from, convention centers for events and activities, a huge amount of asset, height map, and biome improvements, and much, much more lore to provide context for the star system itself. It has been very clear that since the planets were finally added to the game in whole, the focus has really shifted towards filling out the base system, bringing Stanton more in line with what it's meant to be long-term, and creating locations for future content and context. But this process isn't complete, and even while the new system and the following 2 systems after that are being produced, Stanton continues to see new additions every quarter. So let's take a look at what we can expect from Stanton as it continues to become the system it is meant to be. A Stanton system that we know is not the one we will be playing in long term. Even looking at the state of the economy and population on the ARC star map, you can see a huge discrepancy from what we are playing. If you were to run a simulation of the Stanton system to show commerce, trade lanes, pirates, and more, it would be a massive spiderweb of units going about their day. In Star Citizen Alpha 317, there's nothing more than a few players in any given spot, and that annoying security that keeps scanning you. In the future, a simulation just like this will keep track of the supply and demand of all nodes in the system. This includes outposts, cities, space stations, underground facilities, and more. Each of these locations will need materials and produced waste and goods. This is the backbone of the economy and Star Citizen overall, and it's where you will be able to have a small impact on the world. Stanton, being one of the most commercialized systems in human space, will absolutely be teeming with activity. Factions will have control over certain areas and resources, offering exclusive deals and discounts to friends and denying enemies. Missions will be popping up regularly as they are needed. Deliveries, resource locating, harvesting, security, and more options will be available from these various factions and populated out to all players, and to use specifically in your priority tab. And based on the state of any part of the system at any time, you might be running into sandbox-based emergent events in which cargo haulers might need help or a group of villagers might need an emergency delivery. And finally, mission givers should be functioning again after server load issues have been better mitigated. These characters will have narrative, more weighty missions for you to take on that require a storyline to be followed, and a certain level of performance to be met. You'll be able to develop working relationships with these people and use their connections to your advantage as well. Some are already in the game, but they struggle to work due to server tick rates and therefore a lack of investment of time. Now, all of this will mean a lot more options for players to pursue if they please. You'll be able to make a living in one planet's local area, boosting your reputation, keeping your travel time short, and learning the local area laws and hotspots better than anybody else. We're still a ways away from that, but the economy is one of the biggest and most impactful ways that the Stanton system will change over time. And of course, as money changes, so does crime. And the law is another big place Stanton will see some shifts from the current day. As of right now, it is near impossible to get help out in space in time if you're being attacked. And even if you aren't yet being attacked, getting an escort is also not very intuitive. Several features such as easy to create player-to-player missions, ship physical armor and disabling, better scanning abilities, and more reliable security and bounty hunters are going to make it much easier to keep yourself safe in the game. But Stanton will always be a weird system when it comes to the law. It is a populous, bustling powerhouse of a system, but it's not your well-controlled Terra or Ellis. This is a corporate system, after all. Imagine a major US city like Los Angeles, a place where you can feel safe working, touring, and commuting in peace for the most part, but also a place where you need to watch where you're going. Stanton suffers from a lack of enforcement at the moment to make this a reality, but security networks are being worked on, which will dictate clearance levels based on reputation and allow players to better track the crimes and infractions of their peers. More NPCs and players alike will be out on security patrols based on probability volumes that inform the game and players similarly that some areas contain higher pirate activity. Local law and bounty hunting offices are being developed per the monthly report, offering a place for that game loop to flourish and encourage players to take on more criminal hunting behaviors. The price of loss through death, reputation loss, imprisonment, and item loss will continue to rise, pushing more casual players to take their pirate antics to safer waters for them like Pyro. While that might push the average skill level of pirates in a controlled system like Stanton higher, there's a good chance it will push the actual number of pirates down. And of course, armistice zones will be removed at some point in the future, leaving no safe place for a criminal if dedicated bounty hunters are after them. Then there's also customs in cities and space stations which will be utilized in the future. While players will be able to bring drugs and weapons with them wherever they want, they will have to find alternative methods to get them past customs and into city proper for whatever mission or task they may be on. This would be the proper introduction of the smuggling profession. This process of gating players can already be seen with Crusader Security Post Korea in 3.18 and beyond, only allowing players to approach if they are approved by Crusader Security. Overall, Stanton will be an early player system, but it might not be the perfect one as your first. The safer places will become safer, but the shady places will also become shadier. It'll be harder to get to those, and you'll want to have the right rep to approach, but the overarching player freedom this game aims to provide when it comes to where and what you can do at any given time means in Stanton you'll likely be able to play a relatively safe or dangerous game when it comes to the law. But many of those law and economic changes won't matter without the features to back them up. There is a lot that's actually already in the system that will benefit a lot from upcoming features. For starters, commercial flights in Star Citizen are absolutely a thing. You can see signs of them at each starport, and they aren't just for show. Personnel transport is a career path we've already seen being worked on in Engine, and could be a feature coming this year as I previously covered. It will include interplanetary flights using different ships, and will require good service, the proper ship, and mixed drinks. Yeah, seriously. But these flights will also allow players to travel without the responsibility of a ship, and create more bustling spaceports. Space stations, outposts, and cities will also see extended access points. We can see this very clearly in Orison in some of the back areas where you can find power consoles and different components available for gameplay to be attached. We've also seen this in New Babbage, where additional rooms and areas are just waiting to be filled with objectives such as cycling power or fixing equipment. These kinds of places will build out the cities with simple missions that could help introduce players to the area, keep new players entertained, or offer easy training for certain activities. We'll also see external access to space stations for more interesting zero-G missions. We've seen several specialized outposts now. Some look like factories and refineries, and some appear to be more like just towns. It's becoming more clear that Stanton will not be the barren system we've known, but will have plenty of these special locations for us to do work, pick up and drop off deliveries, and explore. And it seems they fit perfectly as an alternative to space stations and also the improved ground facilities. I think the improved ground facilities we've seen recently are another major location archetype, alongside cities, towns, caves, and space stations that can act as standalone packages of gameplay for players to encounter in missions, doing random tasks, and general exploration. They may actually be introduced in 2023, but there's no knowing yet. But it's clear that all of these locations are being prepared for a lot more activity, and a lot more locations in the Stanton system. We've seen an increase in these kinds of locations, with several ruins added in one patch last year, and now 35 more ruins added in 3.18, along with plenty of new river locations, sand caves, and race-ready locations. This trend will likely continue in 2023, with more points of interest added around Stanton in anticipation of more of this gameplay. The gameplay I'm talking about will be complemented by, I think, several different features, but arguably one of the biggest are building interiors, Star Citizen's method of offering more interior gameplay spaces procedurally throughout cities. These building interiors, while likely a bit samey at times, should greatly expand the explorable area in cities and the places in which we can run FPS, rescue, resource management, and other types of missions. For some examples, check out Siege of Orison. Then there are the creatures. Not really something you hear about often, as they are heavily dependent on competent non-human AI, which you can imagine hasn't really been a priority. But we are already well aware of a few creatures that will make Stanton their home. There is the Xiphopod, which we've seen advertised on Hurston. The Storm Wall, native to Crusader, the Boreal Stalker, known to be on Microtech, and the little pill bugs added to Sand Caves in 3.18, though I don't know if those will ever actually be alive. There are undoubtedly more to come, but these are what we know are in Stanton, and could add new harvestables, collectibles, and missions where they are added into the game, though there's no knowing when that is. And finally, there are the ongoing updates to our current locations. Cargo decks will likely be updated to accommodate the next step of the cargo refactor. Lorville is likely seeing a new version added this year. The system's jump points will be added, drastically changing trade lanes. Asteroid facilities are due. Microtech's forest is getting improved. Different types of caves will be added. The Aaron's Halo Belt contains massive gateway passages controlled by the corporations to control inter-system traffic. And ArcCorp will be updated, with clouds, weather, and likely some other biomes besides just city, as that has been retconned.
There's another planet that sort of went through some changes. The original, pitch for it was that sort of Coruscant type planet where it's like just one massive megacity type thing, but we sort of walked that back a bit. It was initially described as like every square inch of it had been developed and stuff like that, but now we're sort of sticking it to land masses because there's sort of sciencey stuff that like weather and stuff like that would be affected by everything being basically a city.
There are tons of changes still due for the Stanton system, and as each system is added to the game with new assets and game systems, it will continue to see these updates throughout the years. I know that some people believe they shouldn't be working on the older assets and only building new locations, but there is something to be said about a balance between filling out an entire game experience in one system while also slowly expanding into others. And I'd love to hear what your thoughts are on that discussion down in the comments below. The Stanton system will always act as a great representation of the overall game. It's where everything started, just a small corner of the system that has grown in leaps through both playable area and usable features. And while we still haven't been able to experience what was actually meant to be played, we've been right there every step of the way as it expanded. And in 10 years, when Stanton is far from new and novel, we'll still likely be spending plenty of time there, because neither the Stanton system nor Star Citizen are going to stop changing anytime soon. I hope you enjoyed this video. I've not known when to make it because, as is the whole point, the system is always changing. It's hard to talk about what is right or wrong in Star Citizen because so many of the features that are defining factors of the game simply don't exist yet. When it comes to conversations around new players, pirates, griefing, safety, or even currency earning rates, the same can be said about Stanton. I wanted to make this to try and bring awareness to just how many ways this star system and the game overall will still keep changing while features are added and made to support others, and how playstyles will need to change to accommodate. I of course made this video for my supporters. I know you all love these videos, and I like to make them for you as a thank you for making this all possible. If you're seeing this 6 months later, consider becoming a supporter to get exclusive videos like this every month. They're generally more in-depth than my others. You can find links to support down below. And consider subscribing to the channel for more Star Citizen content if you're interested. I hope you learned something new in this one, and I'll catch you in the next.